In today's rapidly evolving business landscape, effective coaching is essential for leaders to navigate challenges and drive success. With over a decade of experience in enterprise risk management at esteemed organizations such as EY, Tata Steel, and currently at Liberty Steel Group in Dubai, Ninesh is well equipped to address challenges and risks in businesses and careers. Recently being certified as an NLP coach, he has embarked on a path in career coaching, aiming to establish himself as a distinguished business and leadership coach in the long term. Let's hear more about him. So, Ninesh, what is your story and what led you to be what you are today?
The auspicious moment started back in 2019, wherein I was invited by one of the prominent business schools in India and to speak on some of the uh, important subjects that concerned my role at that point of time. And I thought it would be really a great opportunity to learn in terms of understanding how the mindset of the student fraternity actually works, while also sharing my experiences along the journey, which whatever I have acquired in the past. And when I've been there, I just noticed that there is, as part of the conversations, it just came out that way that the students really had a lot of anxiety about how a typical day at work would look like, while they had all the traits and characteristics to excel at work in terms of academics and the technical requirements that's there. But I think the practicality of how it all pans out in future when they are really in the industry doing something for themselves was amiss. And that's when I decided that I would speak on what the jobs of the industry look like, what different roles in companies look like, how does it differentiate for even a single role, how does it differentiate between a consulting organization and non-consulting organization. And that's when the conversations actually started taking shape. And then I've been just pondering over this for over a while, and it's just taken me quite long to come to this stage where I'm right now, uh, wherein I was trying to give it some kind of a more structured shape in terms of how I can develop this in terms of a more nuanced profession so that it can leave a more lasting impact on the student fraternity. That's about it. That's been the journey so far.
So, Ninesh, tell me how mentoring is different from coaching, because I see a lot of career consultants, coaches, a lot of mentors around. How are you doing it differently?
And that's a brilliant question at the very outset, which I would like to point at. And a lot of people do actually, confuse between what mentoring as a profession involves and what coaching as a profession has to offer. So there's a very fundamental structural difference that exists between both of these two. And many a times, depending upon the nature of assignments or engagements that we get or receive as coaches, require some bit of mentoring as well. But if I have to just explain you in terms of how the international standards prescribe, so the key difference is in terms of the approach that we adopt when we are mentoring vis-a-vis when we are coaching. So while mentoring is about sharing your own life experiences about some situations that you might have gone through in the past and advising somebody on recommendations to somebody who needs it, so it's like if you are a mentee and if I'm a mentor, I would essentially relate all of my experiences which I might have faced in the past and the lessons that I might have learned in the process. I would like to share that with you, and maybe then you can also imbibe all of that into your life and workspace, whatever that is, and see if it if it gets to some kind of a solution. Now when we come to coaching, it is like asking really thought-provoking questions, not throwing solutions or recommendations at somebody who has come to you. And it is through the questioning process that you help the coachee arrive at solutions through their own understanding of their own circumstances around it. If I have to just substantiate this with respect to an example, so let's say if somebody comes to me and asks that this is my area of focus and I want to excel in this area of focus. Now, the mentoring approach would be to share my own snippets from my own experiences that this is XYZ set of three things that I've done in the past, and maybe you could adopt it too to see if it works for you. Now, when I step into the shoes of a coach, I necessarily don't delve into those aspects. I would really ask questions around, can you think of some situation which have led to excellence in the past for you? And then if that person is able to remind himself of such situation, I'll get on to the next question, which is about what are the key elements that have led to such an excellence in the past? And is it possible to distill those elements into the present context? And then we as coaches look at various interventions in which we can distill those elements in some other context to the present context and see if that works and delivers results for the coaching.
Oh, that's amazing. So this is an early crisis that everybody goes through, right? Now, what according to you are the challenges that the students or the juniors or the mid-level professionals face these days, understanding or having these clarity?
That's again a question which is quite close to my heart, and I've been following this quite passionately over the last 3 to 4 years. Although the dimensions or the expanse has been limited to the B school fraternity at this point of time. And if I have to date my experience to, let's say, 3-4 years back, I think, the kind of experience or the learnings that I've had out of my interactions with the B school students is that while there is a lot of awareness and skills available in terms of the hard knowledge that is imparted through academics, there is a significant gap that exists in terms of how they perceive the future of the jobs could look like when they step into the industry. So while I may be in a position wherein I feel that I'm quite confident doing this job, when I'm just limited to the books and the lectures and the classroom sessions and here listening to my professors, but when I step into the industry, I'm able to figure out certain elements as part of the job, which I might not like, which I might not quite be good at, and I might decide to actually change tracks in that context. So I think there is a lot of opportunity available in terms of the B schools, collaborating with really decent coaches who can bring that kind of a perspective to the students and bridge that existing gap. So there is more and more awareness about how a typical job in an industry looks like, which the colleges don't speak about, and yeah, that's about it. Moving on to the next space, which I feel holds immense potential, is addressing the concerns of the junior to mid-management professional. I've been in that space myself, and that's the reason I appreciate what it brings to the table and why it is concerning to a lot of us. Many of us, when we start our careers, we find ourselves in places where it seems that we don't belong here. And many a times it is out of aspiration levels. Many a times we don't just like what we're doing, and that's not enough to fuel us from a longer term perspective. And we like to change tracks. And that's when I think a coaching conversation is at play. We see, the world is going through so much of uncertainty at this point of time. It's flooded and it's shrouded with a lot of aspects. We talk about wars, we talk about regulations every single day. We talk about uncertainties in the financial landscape. We talk about climate change as a significant variable. We talk about geopolitics, etc. And all of these, in one way or the other, have significant repercussions on the way industry is shaping up and the way jobs are shaping up. So, and that leads to a lot of anxiety in the minds of people who are starting out on their career specific journey. So let's say if somebody has spent 2 or 3 years or 5 years in the journey and wants to transition, given the fact that the landscape is changing so fast and needs some kind of shifting of gears, then coaching comes really handy in terms of charting out various ways and pathways and discussing various structures, addressing mental fogs and barriers that exist in the minds which prevent people from doing what they are supposed to do.
Nainesh, you say you have conversations with your clients, students, professionals, right? Now, what is that one part or that area of the conversation that interests you?
This is really very exciting, and I really relate to it in a very deeper way, so to speak. I think neuroscience is one element which really brings in a whole lot of new dimension to the whole uh, coaching conversation, because it lets you understand and delve deeper into the psyche of that individual, the choice of words that a person resorts to, the way a person behaves, the way a person responds to situations. It's nothing but the ways in which our brain behaves and perceives, and how the neural structures in our brain are actually structured through years of conditioning process, if I can just put it that way. And I would just like to address this by saying that it's never too late or it's never too early to alter your neural structures in a way that it works for you rather than against you. So, if I have to just give you an example of an individual, and we have all experienced that in our work lives, we all have seen there is either a superior or a supervisor who is always overwhelmed with a lot of responsibilities. And such individuals are very much focused towards deliveries, targets, timelines, quality of deliverables, all of that. But then one essential element which I have found in a few of the individuals in the past is missing is having empathy for people who work with you, for people who work around you, and also think about how they feel and how they perceive you in the whole process. And if you're not sensitive towards that, sooner or later you will see your teams getting fragmented, or people quitting teams, and there is attrition levels and all of that. And while it may seem that in the short to medium term, a person of such demeanor who is always obsessed about deliverables, about the quality of deliverables in isolation, and leaving some of these soft aspects behind of not connecting with individuals in his or her team, the success will not be long term, because the people will not be eventually connecting with you, or will not, if I have to just put it this way, people will not like to hang out with you.
Correct.
Yeah. And that's when a coaching conversation for such individuals also comes into picture. And sooner or later, the organization also realizes that there are such kind of individuals who are there and need some kind of assistance or support towards transitioning them into a much resourceful or a productive state, so that there is, a positive impact on the overall ecosystem, which comprises of that individual, plus a lot of individuals that are towing away with him.
You're
or her.
right. You're right.
So
I think the coaching does help everybody, not just juniors or mid levels. I think it shapes up the entire organization if one knows how to have a great team management and
exactly.
how to have that empathetic relationship with the whole team, right?
And just to build on that response, which I just quoted a few minutes back, such individuals who are very obsessed with their work and delivery, and quite a lot of time they fall into a sense of anxiety and remain in that state for quite a long period of time. There is one portion of the brain which becomes quite heightened in activity, and that's called as amygdala, the role of which is to process emotions, and it easily gets into a state of fright and flight mode. So when coaching conversation happens, it then becomes an immediate response of the coach, or a duty of the coach, to plot such ambiguities in the behavior, and then see what interventions can be built into the overall psychological structure of that human, to transition from that not so productive state wherein amygdala remains always in a heightened state, and you are always in a state wherein you are reacting to situations or responding in a sense of anxiety, and then transition to a state which is more productive. So let's say you transition to a state wherein you're more calm, You are in a state wherein logic prevails. You are in a state wherein you are able to be sensitive to how the other people also feel about the way you are conducting yourself, which means that there is other part of the brain that needs to become more heightened in activity, which is prefrontal cortex, or the frontal lobe of the brain, which occupies a large and significant part of our brains. That's approximately 40%. But in a lot of situations, for a lot of individuals, the activity in that part of the brain is minimized. Now, through a lot of interventions like meditation, yoga, breath work, you can really expand the area that this portion, or the prefrontal cortex that's responsible for logic and rational based decision making and being sensitive to other individuals as well, expands, shortens the influence of amygdala on your actions, on your behavior, and then transforms into you a more resourceful human being. And then you tend to have more positive impact on the overall ecosystem from the context of your employees. The overall organizational objectives are met, and then it's like a lot more sustainable for everybody who is rowing in the same boat
for a long term.
Yeah.
So, Naresh, how early do you think one must start coaching to address all these challenges?
Yeah. I think, first of all, thank you for that question. And that's, again, one critical area that needs a lot of clarification. So before I answer that question, get into that, I think it's very important for us to understand what does coaching serve and how does that actually serve a coachee. When does an individual feel the need that he or she needs to go to a professional coach who can bring some kind of value to the overall state of being to that individual who requires? So for that to be understood, I think, we need to understand that there are two objectives that an individual sees need to be met, as far as getting into a coaching engagement is concerned. The first is either the person is suffering from some kind of a challenge. It could be with respect to a personal life issue. It could be at work. It could be in the context of the overall life and the state of being that the individual is in. So the person is trying to address the challenge. And the second aspect wherein a coaching conversation may be relevant is with respect to achievement of a certain goal in life. So you have something in mind, you want to reach XYZ levels in, let's say, next 3 years. You might have done a lot of things in that, but that might not have given you enough results to be in that future state. And you feel that there is some kind of an external intervention that may help you in terms of discovering if there is something that you're leaving out in the process, if there is something that needs to be discovered all over again, if there is something that needs to be looked at differently. When I mention about these two aspects, these can happen during the course of an entire lifetime, right from the point that you start gaining consciousness and you have certain level of maturity. I think that's the time when you start to sense that there could be some kind of a potential in which an external intervention might be required to put you on the right path and to address some kind of barriers that you might have in your mind to deal with. So that's about it. Even in the terms of a goal achievement, as I already discussed, it could be about lack of clarity. It could be about, you might have thought that you have done enough and that you can do nothing, which is there, but you're still dissatisfied with how things are progressing. So an external intervention or an external engagement with some coaches who have a decent understanding of how to study emotions, behaviors, actions, the choice of words that you opt for, and overall study the overall neuroscience behind why a person does what he does or what she does, helps a great deal in terms of deciding when to go for coaching.
So, Nainesh, how early do you think one should start coaching who faces all these challenges?
So I think there is no appropriate timeline around it. It absolutely depends on the conscience of the individual and the gravity of the situation at hand in terms of whether it relates to achievement of a goal that might be in front of a person or addressing a particular challenge in life or at work. And then, you know, figure out various indicators or patterns or trends in your own emotions, in your own behaviors, in terms of the results or outcomes that you're getting at this point of time, that you may decide to get in some kind of an external uh, support mode. And it could be in the form of seeking the help of an external coach who could really guide conversations in a more positive direction. It could be really, someone within your own family or friend circle as well, wherein you feel somebody is competent enough to have that kind of conversation with. So yeah, that should be the response.
Nainesh, I'm very curious to know, can you tell us a story where coaching has shaped up a path in a particular person's life?
I would like to refer to a situation when I was contacted by one of the MBA final year students who was appearing for her final placements in the B school, which was happening. And she was having a lot of issues in terms of uh, navigating through the whole placement process and how does she position herself in the way a resume is crafted, in the way she presents before the interviewers, situations around that. That's when led me on a quite decent learning path as well, because it led me to explore how that person's current state is in terms of how she is trying to position herself at this point of time, and then figure what the gaps are and is it serving her at this current point of time. So there were a lot of pointers that were identified as part of the whole process in terms of building various scenarios around how to position oneself depending upon the kind of company that you get interviewed for. So if it's a consulting organization, you need to have uh, some skill sets which are more important to them as opposed to a firm which is into some kind of a specialized line of business. Let's say a financial services firm, let's say a manufacturing company, let's say a media or publishing house. Now those companies, when they come for interviews, they look for some kind of very specific and hard skill sets, and they start evaluating you on those parameters. But when it comes to consulting, they look at the overall personality that you bring, because in consulting it's all about delivering outcomes, and the roles could actually vary quite a lot depending upon the industries that you cater to. So it could be tens of assignments across different industries, so they are not very much focused about the core skill sets in that context, core technical skill sets, if I can just put it that way. But it's really about the fundamental characteristics that need to be there in terms of sound communication skills, in terms of the way that you structure problems, structure or formulate responses to such problems, is what is being looked at. So I think, such approaches really went on to refine her responses, and she really managed to get into a decent organization after a month of working with her in that journey.
So it took a month.
Yeah, it took a month.
Okay.
So to summarize, Lini, I think coaching is a really brilliant tool if it is done right and if it is pursued methodically. So if at any point of time, if you perceive that there is a set of challenge that you need to cater to, whether it concerns career, whether it concerns your businesses, you can very well connect with me on LinkedIn, and I would be more than happy to take that conversation forward to address in the right spirit. Thank you.